Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Shop Stool podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. This is episode number 9. My name is Robin Lewis from robinlewismakes.com. I'm joined by Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks.
Hello.
And Jordan Crawford from Periodic Furniture Studio.
Hello.
We live stream the recording on YouTube every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or UTC plus 10, or you can watch or listen to it later on YouTube, iTunes, or SoundCloud. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. We'll get to the comments towards the end of the show, but feel free to chat amongst yourself and leave questions. The idea being that this is also a place for people to meet. So before we get into this week's topic, let's do a quick rundown of what everyone's working on. Joey, that's your cue.
Alrighty. I just put out my Cheers video, so everyone can finally see what the hell I've been talking about. It seems to be going pretty good. I've just started, well, this week really started a walnut sofa in a Japanese style. It's a very low U-shaped sofa, so it's going to be interesting. I've got to do some curved backrests, detail-y things, which I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that.
When you say low U-shaped, you mean like as in the center of the sofa, it's got a low...
No, sorry. It's a very low seating. It's like 300 mil off the ground. But the whole sofa is like a big U shape if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view.
Ah, okay. Right, I'm with you. I got you.
Yeah. So it's quite large, actually. It's like 3.2 long, and then the returns are 1.8 or something like that.
Jeez.
It's a fairly big piece of kit. I just got an order through early this week for a dog cage that is pretty high end, and it's going to also double as a TV stand in this.
Sorry, cage or kennel?
How's that work? I'm not sure if you call it I'm not a dog owner, so I'm not sure if the difference between kennel or cage, but it's the indoor sleeping apartment of the dog. It looks a bit like a typical Western jailhouse, like with bars on it. It's got a sliding door like a jail. Yeah.
And how does a TV incorporate into that? Is it just on top of?
Yeah, that was what like. And when she finally got the dimensions through and everything, she said, "Oh, it's pretty big, but that's how big she wanted it. We're just going to have to throw our TV on top. Is that going to be okay?" And I was like, "Sure, you can do whatever you like on top of it." This thing's like over a meter tall, so
it's definitely not a Chihuahua then.
No, one of the photos it looked like it was a Great Dane or something. Like it's big,
or it's just a very small TV.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm probably not going to film it, but I'll be on Instagram with it.
Cool. I guess I'll go next. What have I been doing? I've got a new dining table, surprise, surprise. Basically finished that one up today, and that's going as part of my signature range of furniture. So I didn't just make it, I also templated everything out on it so I can repeat it. And if you saw Joey's chair video, it's basically similar to the way he's jigged up that chair, except it's just a lot bigger because it's a dining table, so it's, bigger legs and everything. On top of that, I've had a job come through, a deposit for the job come through, which is, surprise, surprise, another dining table, which is really, I'm excited for this one because it's using American white oak, which is just my favorite timber to use. And it's got a bit of freedom in it with the design. He kind of sent it through to me, and I did a quick sketch so I could price it up. And that quick sketch was the perfect model for him. So he was like, yep, that's exactly what I want. So
sweet.
It's, just easy so far. As long as I can get the oak, because my supplier has no loose lengths of oak, American white oak, really, that I can use. So I'm trying to convince him to split a pack. Otherwise, I don't know how I'm going to get it easily.
Does he only sell by the pack for like exotics?
No, he does loose lengths. But generally he tries to keep packs as packs. But you know, he's got 2 lengths at 4 meters. He's got 1 length at 1.5 meters. You know, it's really weird lengths that's in there. So
That's really
I'm
weird.
trying to convince him it's time to open a new pack.
I see. Well, don't they just usually put the scraps of the last pack on top of the new pack and then away you go?
Yeah, that's how I would do it. But I think their issue is we've got a designer on this side of the pond. I think it's Nathan Day. I could be thinking of the wrong furniture maker, but I'm assuming he is his supplier and he just buys packs and packs every month. So
Get loads.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's the issue with the white oak, because everything else is fine.
There's a quick question on that point, John, from Leroy. Is American white oak difficult to come across?
No, I mean, it's available, but it is hard to get. If you're only wanting small quantities, it's turning into a bit of a mission at the moment, and it's quite expensive. So I'm needing 250, is it? No, 225 mil wide boards. And yeah, basically I'm spending almost $62 per meter at that width.
That's by how big?
38 mil. So
yeah, that's pretty expensive.
It's really expensive. I mean, the narrower lengths, which the base and everything's made out of, is a lot cheaper. I think that's like $40 a meter for the 150. So it's quite a big jump between the two sizes. But
I can't quite picture it because I work out my seller sells everything by the cube, so I know everything. And like American white oak is about 4,200 a cube. So that means nothing to you because
yeah, I mean,
do the maths.
He is selling it by the cube as well, and it's a lot cheaper. Yeah. And I think if my whole plan of this signature range actually does come a reality, I'll probably buy it by the cube, or by the pack, I should say, because it is way cheaper. But at this stage, it's just not feasible.
Yeah, I actually just picked up. That's why my chairs were in red oak, because I picked up 2 cubes of red oak for cheaper than pine.
Wow.
Because I had a timber rep come by and say, oh, just before Christmas, he was like, we're trying to get rid of this old stock. We don't want it. It's been sitting in the shed for 2 years. We just need to get rid of it. And I was like, done, bought, sold.
I'll take it, yeah. Yep. Do you have a designated storage area for large quantities in your shop?
No.
Yeah,
that's why it's just taking up floor space.
Cool. It's not the only one. I mean, I do, but not for big packs.
I've never bought a packet like that before, but after doing it, man, it's so easy having a stack of wood you can just go to and just take a plank off it.
I found that it's great, but at the same time, you pull that plank and it's like, no, this one's too good, and you throw it back in and you look for the next.
Well, the packet is meant to be for all my house furniture, so I'm trying to only use it for that.
Yeah,
but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw on Instagram this week, there's that timber that I'm drying underneath the house. That's what I'm looking forward to with that, is just for having this stack of hardwood. You know, I don't need to drive out to Bunnings or go somewhere and buy it.
What is it?
It's there.
Do you know? I think
someone has suggested it might be Tassie oak, but it's at this stage it looks a bit too red or reddy brown to be Tassie oak.
So there's a pretty bleached Tassie oak.
Yeah, usually. Right. That's normally so there's a bit of paper bark, which is obviously a lot lighter, and then it's some gum. It's pretty solid. It's hard to tell right now because it's still obviously quite wet, but the grain does does look quite dense. Yeah, and it is quite heavy. So I'm hoping that whatever it is, at least it's going to be decent.
Is it 50 mil thick? You've got it ripped into.
Yeah, around there.
Are these? Sorry, I'm missing something. Is this the slabs or this is different wood? What we're talking about. So I saw on Instagram all of the resawn.
Yeah.
Wood. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Cool.
That's it. So it was a tree that came down, got cut down a couple months ago, and then last weekend I just got it back from the sawyer.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Pretty excited. So what I've done, I was talking to John earlier about the air cons that I've just had installed. I've got the air cons, and then about a meter away is
That's
all
awesome idea.
Yeah, so it's basically all that warm air is just being pumped straight over the timber.
Yeah,
so
it is nice, warm, dry air, and it's just straight out of those fans.
Yeah, you'll probably dry that in no time.
Yeah.
And I've just put in 2 new air cons today, so now I have a 3x3 wall with
awesome.
3 air cons. Yeah, it's like it's
just having that move. Well, just getting that move is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
that's a really good idea.
Oh, right, sorry, I interrupted there, John. Anything else?
No, I mean, I think that's about it for me.
Cool. All right, so for me this week, I finished my first project for 2018. You know, I haven't put out a YouTube video since before Christmas.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like I just have nothing to comment on. So I've finished a project. It's a bedside table, and I've just got to do the final bit of filming. So I'm aiming to have that out this weekend if everything goes to plan.
Is this with the tricky little tech thing in it that we're not sure what it is?
Which works, tested, everything's
awesome.
working. I'm 99% sure you know what it is, Joey. I know you said you think you did. I'm pretty sure you do.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah.
I thought it was something new until I went and did some searching, and it's not new, but it just hasn't been done very often. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's hopefully coming out this weekend. And then the other thing was I'm continuing with the dining room table. I don't know why this project is just taking so long. I don't know if it's just because I'm adding all these extra bits to it, but it's just taking so long. So this week I spent just flattening the bottom and putting on the breadboard ends, which was obviously a super exciting thing to do for the first time.
It looks good.
Yeah, that's it. Learned a whole lot. They're obviously not perfect. There's a lot of room for improvement, but it was pretty cool to do something that was a real woodworking thing. You're not just gluing or screwing or like Joey just using pocket holes or something. You know, it's actual real woodworking.
It wasn't a pocket hole. I didn't use any pocket holes.
It was a countersunk hole, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. So that was it. So the dining table this week, I'm hopefully going to get onto the legs. So maybe in about 2 months it'll be finished.
Are you with the legs? I think we did talk about this, but you're mortise and tanning it into the legs or dovetailed something or other, isn't it?
So it's like a half dovetail, half flap.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I do remember now.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's what I'm working on this week.
Something unique as well. Yeah, cool.
Exactly. And I think that could be why this table is just taking so long, is everything is just, it's new all the time. So you're having everything is a 2-day process to think the step through.
Because your breadboard ends, your first breadboard end was on the tabletop, wasn't it? You didn't do like a test piece somewhere.
No, it's that. That's it. So that's why it's
the best test.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be going slower because you're trying not to stuff it up. That's why. Make sure you get it right.
And it's not so much. It's not even about going slowly. It's about staring at it for 2 days and going, right, I have everything. And then just on a random Friday, you just pull out the right and start doing it. And this is what always seems to happen. And they see you're like, oh, geez, I've done it. It's finished. It's done. So but it just took those 2 days of like coaxing yourself into the frame of mind to go ahead with it.
That's funny.
Sorry, go for it, Joey. You go.
Too polite. I feel the same way when I'm doing something new for client jobs, but I only get about 2 minutes to stand back and think about what I'm doing, and then I say, right, I've got to start the machine, so let's get into it. So that's the only difference.
I am the same way when I'm starting a new thing. I look at it, but usually I have 2 minutes, but this week I haven't. I've had plenty of time, and it took me a day and a half before I even turned the machine on. I took wood out of the rack and I measured it. I was like, yeah, it's going to fit. All right, go back, keep refining. It was terrible. But since I started at like 10:30 yesterday morning, and it's by 3 o'clock today, the table is made. Yeah, it wasn't difficult. It was just...
Hey, I saw on Instagram, you said it was a mock-up.
Yeah.
But you've used, it looks like it's hardwood. You've used like decent timber for it.
Yeah, so mock-up's probably the wrong word. It's more
prototype.
Full scale and full quality prototype.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
So is there, just only because I saw just before I saw the picture, where the rail Oh, there must be a join. Looks like, forget it.
Pocket screws. Pocket screws.
Oh, it was a pocket screws. Okay.
Sorry, Rob, I cut you off.
That's all right. I did think about you guys this week. I think you mentioned it, Joey, in that article that you wrote about trying to find clients and customers, that short article. And you were talking about how when you build these things, keep track of the time that you're spending. Mm-hmm. And this week I was keeping track going, I don't think this is going to be a viable business. If it takes me this long to put together a tabletop, I'm going to have to.
Well, I guess in that case, you should be counting the time you're actually working, not the time you're sitting in the corner like scared of the tool.
Thinking about it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's been my week.
Cool.
All right. So this week we are going to talk about, it's a topic that Joey mentioned. It's all about processes and the processes that go on in the business and in the workshop. So the idea is we're just going to discuss some processes that we have, some processes that we shouldn't have, and I guess some processes that we should have. So Joey, why don't you start us off with something?
Yeah, sure. I knew you were going to say that. So it's a bit of a difficult topic, but I think if we just start talking about stuff, I'm sure we'll just do what we do.
Right.
I thought the first thing that came to mind for me was the sales process, for whatever reason. And I don't really have a sales process that I stick to. And I guess if I can come back a little bit. So when I was doing business coaching, they used to drum into us that we should have a script sitting next to the telephone. So as soon as someone calls, the only things we say is what's written down on that script, and that's going to get us all the information we need, and that's it. Just as long as you say what's written down, you're going to have a good relationship with the client. Blah blah blah. Well, it just does not work when the product you're selling could be anything. The script doesn't work for that. So. Not that I get many phone calls. I'd actually be interested to know if Jordan gets any phone calls either. It seems to be all by email, but
yeah, no, I mean I get the occasional phone call, but I'd say easily 90%, maybe not that high, but 80% is email. But the weird thing is I don't list my mobile phone number anywhere anymore since I've got a landline. Right. But my landline never rings, so it's still using obviously old ads or something,
right?
My mobile on it.
That's weird.
I've never had my landline actually come through for anyone that's wanting to buy something, just salespeople.
That's really interesting. Because I don't have a business line, I've sat looking at should I add my mobile to the public for a long time, and it's interesting that you say you don't actually need to put it in. I thought you have to have a phone line because those are the only real customers are going to be the ones calling you.
I mean, if you want a phone line, I would advise against actually using your mobile, and I'll do like a subscription to an answering service because, I mean, it costs a bit of money, but then you don't get all the salespeople saying, "Oh, hey, do you want to be number one in Google?" And then
I need to get that on the phone. Do you get that on the phone? Though?
Always get it on the phone. And I used to be polite and say, "Look, I don't want this," and now I just say, "Stop calling, hang up," because it used to be 2 or 3 a week. Now it's maybe 1 a month, which is
because I've got my mobile phone number everywhere, and doesn't really ring that much, but because when I find a customer does call me, we'll have a quick chat, but I can never get any real information that I need from them because they're just scoping me out. So as soon as they talk to me and they think, okay, we want to get a quote or something, first thing I'm saying, and I guess this is my process, is that, okay, give me some dimensions, email me through some pictures of something that you think is what you're after, a couple of basic dimensions, and a photograph of where it's going to go in the house. And so from there, it's just all email replies. And so, and then the next time I talk to them will be on delivery day, in person. So.
That's really close to what I do as well. But what you said there is a photo of where it's going to be in the house. I've never even considered asking that. That's a great idea to get a...
It's massive. It gives you so much information, mainly about, has it got skirtings? What kind of, how big are the skirtings? Scotia, is there a window nearby? Has it got some weird sill that's sticking out way past the window at proper? They're the things that the client has no clue, especially if it's a built-in unit. If it's built-in, I'm probably going to go do a site visit.
Yeah.
But to do a quote, I'm not going to do a site visit for a quote. I just want a picture of the space and some dimensions. And then I'll go do a site visit once I get a deposit. I'm not going to waste my time driving somewhere only to not get the job. So
it kind of sounds like you do have a process set up already, Joey, but you just don't realize it, maybe.
Yeah, it's something that I've just been putting together over time, learning from all my mistakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, for me, the number one thing is a picture of, is there going to be a PowerPoint in a way? And, just lots of things you can tell by even the condition of the floor. You can probably tell what the condition of the house is, and if it's going to be on the piss, then you need to allow a bit more for leveling up whatever it is that you're making. Or just lots of information for one or two pictures.
One of the points that you had there, Joey, on the topic was the sharpening process, and I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because my sharpening process, I've watched all the videos on YouTube and I've gone through all the things. I use one stone and that's it. And it gets me, as long as I can take the blade and I can get the hairs off my hand, then I'm done. Move forward, off you go. One stone. Right. So I'm interested to hear what you guys do.
What grit are you using?
No idea. It was a $30 stone from Bunnings.
Yeah, okay.
And that's it. It's an extra fine grit. That's all it says on the box.
I don't know. Who wants to go first? Do you want to go, Jordan?
Yeah, I can go. So, I mean, for me, sharpening is, I do fall behind in my sharpening regime. Like, I've had on my whiteboard here, which has all the things I have to do, I've had sharpening session on there for about 3 months. But generally, my sharpening process is every hand tool I have gets a hollow grind on a whetstone. So it's the Triton version of the Tormec machine that I use. And that brings it up to have just, you could use it straight off the machine. With the honing wheel that's on there, I put it ultra fine. I use AutoSol honing compound to polish it. And generally I'll do that once every couple of months for the actual straight knives. But what I do when I'm using the tools and it needs a touch up, I have both a 10,000 grit stone if it's really bad, but usually I just use that for flattening the back, and then a leather strop where I will touch up the edge. And generally 5 licks of the strop and that tool is good to go again. It will cut through paper and no resistance in the cut again. And that's generally the process. What's
the grit on the wheel?
There's a grading stone. I don't know what the actual grit is on that, but you have on the grading stone, you got rough. So if you're trying to redefine, go from a 25 degree to a 30 degree, you go into rough, and then you regrade the stone onto fine. And I mean, from comparing it to my bench stones, I would hazard a guess and say it's probably about 800 grit when it's on its fine.
Right.
But, it's a rotary thing, so it's going to create a straight scratch pattern anyway, so it's going to look worse than it is.
Yeah.
For other things in my shop, my saw blades, I have a saw doctor, which is just down the road from me. So if they get pitch and resin buildup or they get nicked, I will generally take it to him. I'd say my main blade, I'd probably sharpen that once a year. Maybe on the panel saw, yeah.
Oh, really?
Because that blade it's like the CR10. It's like the hardest. It's not the hardest carbide, but it's the most durable. So it lasts longer between sharpening. But if I'm on my sheet goods blades, which never get a workout, I notice they go dull really quick. So they'll need more. Bandsaw blades, I don't sharpen them. I just replace the blades I use are like $30. By the time they're dull, they're gone.
Yeah.
And everything else is carbide insert in my shop. So,
Right.
yeah. Oh, and other than my planer knives on my surfacer, I have the sharpening machine in-house, so I just do that when they need it.
They're for the long knives. That's for the
That's for the
20-inch ones.
That will go up to 25
no,
inch. That will go up to 24 inch, but my joint is 16 inch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess I was kind of similar to Jordan, but I'll cover the machines first because that's easiest. Sharpening process is that my sharpening guy shows up once a month and I give him anything that needs sharpened that's not my chisels or plane blades.
That's cool. I didn't realize that you got sharpening guys. I'm gonna see if Townsville has a sharpening guy.
Oh, there's a saw doctor in every town. It has to.
Yeah, this guy travels from Whangarei to Auckland City, so that's a 2-hour one-way trip. So it's a 4-hour round trip, and he does that once a month. Well, he comes past my building once a month, so he's going other directions. So he just drops by. I just give him what I need. He's got it all in his truck, and away you go. And it's like for like a blade for my bench saw, it's 25 cents a tooth or something like that.
Oh, geez, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, so it's just based on.
That's cheap. I mean, it's probably about what I pay actually in the grand scheme of things. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine for your big ripping blades. It gets a bit more expensive for your cross-cutting blades because there's more teeth. The straight knives are about $40, so it's not bad. Now, Robin, you mentioned cutting the hair on your hand, the sharp. I do the same thing, but I can't remember who I listened to, but they were going on about this old master saying, "Look, I can shave with this chisel, but it's not sharp. Just because I can shave with it doesn't mean it's sharp."
Yeah.
And then he went on to sharpen it up to like 20,000 grit on a stone and really showed them what sharp was.
Fillet his skin.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, whatever. To me, shaving the hair is a good kind of point of reference. Like, if it's not doing that, it's definitely blunt. So it gives me a ballpark.
The method of testing sharp that I was taught by my guy is you get your thumbnail or whichever nail is the thickest, and you run it over the edge of the blade really lightly, because that way you're not cutting into your. That
sounds like the accident way to have it.
Really lightly, but you can feel every little nick in that blade. So if you haven't polished that out, you got to keep going.
And it actually catches your nail, and when it's sharp, you can actually feel it kind of pulling your nail along, like it's digging in.
Yeah,
that's how I learned to. Actually, I never considered doing that for my tools, but I learned to do that with like hunting knives and stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing that I have found that works really well, and this is if there's anyone out there listening that has heard of this or has tried it. So I've got my stone where I obviously I'll create the bevel, then I'll flatten off the bevel, then I'll create the bevel again. Then I take that bevel on a piece of pine, and I just fold the bevel back and forth until it breaks. And then that's perfectly sharp. It's almost like a strop, but it's not, because it's wood, and it's just nice because you've got a piece of timber lying around anyway. And you can do it with that.
I would say do exactly that, but go down to Bunnings or Repco or anywhere and get a tube of Autosol and charge that bit of pine with Autosol, because then you're not only breaking off that burr, but you're also putting a bit of a polish onto the edge. Like you'll see a big difference just by honing after cutting.
Right, okay. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. And so, it's a burr. It's not a bevel. What am I talking about? Yeah.
So my sharpening process was pretty average before I read a book by David Charlesworth, and I can't remember the name of the book. Presumably it's Sharpening something. I'll try and find it later. That really, his method for sharpening changed my whole process completely. I went out and bought a bunch of stuff the next day. So what my process, although I don't follow his process to the T, because there's something I don't agree with. So I have an 800 grit. So I use Japanese water stones. I don't care about the mess. People complain about it, but it's really not that messy. I go 800 grit to form a bevel. And then I go 1200 to remove some scratch marks. And then usually I'll go micro bevel with the 400 and 4000 and 6000 grit, and polish the back with 4 and 6000. I've got a honing guide. This is for my chisels and planer blades. So I've got the Veritas honing guide, which is awesome. Generally, sharpening my planes to 40 degrees. I like high. I used to go to 50, but the Veritas honing guide won't go up to 50, so I have to go back down to 40.
Every blade?
Most of my planer blades.
40? Oh, plane only blades, not chisels.
My chisels are at 35.
Yeah.
Depending, I had them up at 50 for a while. I was just playing around with it.
Yeah.
And then come back down to about 35.
Yeah.
They work just as good. Just it's a bit harder to sharpen up at such a high pitch.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much me. I really like the micro bevel if I can remember to keep on top of it. Otherwise, it just ends up becoming the main bevel.
Yeah, and that's where the hollow grind beforehand helps, because everything you do on a stone becomes a micro bevel until you've done it on a stone so much that it's flat again. But the first 10 or so sharpenings, it's still adding a micro bevel regardless.
Like this morning, I went to plane some of this walnut I'm working with. My plane just was not cutting. I hit it with the 4000 like 10 times, come back, and it's shaving like butter. So I mean, it's so quick to rehone something that is appearing dull. It doesn't take much to get it back to bloody sharp.
Yeah.
So one of the points that I wanted to bring up, and I guess this is possibly a routine, not a process, is when your day starts coming into the shop. And the reason I mention this is because as someone who doesn't do this full time yet, who's not making a lot of money on it, sometimes it's very easy for me to just sit upstairs and watch YouTube videos with a cup of coffee because I just don't feel like going down into the workshop. Do you guys have like a process? Because I know I'm a very routine driven person. So if I have a routine, I'll stick by that and I'll be the most productive person. But as soon as I break that, it's over. And right now I'm really trying to get back into that routine of you wake up, you make your bed, you have a cup of coffee, and by 9 o'clock, you're down in the workshop, or 8 o'clock, you're down in the workshop. Do you guys have the same thing?
Okay.
You go.
You can answer questions. I need to be out of the house by 7:30 at the latest. It's a bit different now because I have an employee, so I've got to be there by 8 o'clock to have the place unlocked and be ready to get him working. But even then, that was pretty much, I need to be standing in the workshop, lights on, ready to go at 8 o'clock in the morning. So
need to, as in that's what makes a productive day, or just because we're running out of time?
Because why is that? I guess it's a self-imposed. If I don't impose my own strict work time, I'm probably just gonna slack off.
Yeah.
Not that I'm that kind of person. I can't sit around and do nothing. I'm very bad at just sitting on the couch. But I also find I'm way more productive between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. Like that's when the bulk of my work, I'll get 80% of my day's work done in the morning. And then the day after lunch just starts trailing off to maybe 3 o'clock. I'm like, right, I'm just gone. Like my brain's not working.
Yeah.
Like all I'm good for is sanding. I really can't work much past 4 o'clock without having a good sized break. Get away for a good hour.
So I'm taking it you work till 4 then, going on that last statement, usually?
Yeah, that's the aim.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason, because I tried that whole keeping hours and tried to keep to it as much as I could. But the issue I found when I was doing that is that I'll be working, I'd be aiming to be out of there by 4:30 at the latest, but I'd still be at work at 7:30 and then still be coming in at the same time the following day.
Can I ask what was it that you were working on so late? Is it paperwork or actual work?
Actual work, because as in physical making of items, because what my process used to be anyway, and I'll get onto why it's used to, is in the morning I'd wake up, I would go make myself a couple of cups of coffee, and sit down and do my emails or try and do my bookkeeping, which is terrible. Don't ask me about that process. Just try and keep on top of the businessy side of things. And then by the time I actually got off my butt to start making, it might be 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I'm exhausted. I
was going to say that because that 8 till 4, that's me generally. Almost all of that time I'm actually working on projects. Usually at lunchtime I'll get a few emails in, but I just about do no quoting or drawing of work at the workshop. So once I come home, see the family, have dinner, kids go to bed, and then I'm like, right, I've got like between 9 and 10:30 to get some drawings made, get some quotes done, email some important emails. So I'm working quite a bit in the evening, but I find if I do that or try to do that in the day or in the morning, especially in the morning, it just blows my whole day out. Once I've been sitting in front of the computer for 2 hours, I have no motivation to go and start cutting them, but because my brain's fried from looking at a screen. So it's very tough to put everything in one day. But
the interesting thing with what you're saying is I've just in the last few weeks, well, as in last few weeks of last year, I had switched it up a lot to be more like you. So I'd be getting in at 7:30, and I'd work until 4-ish and get home. And it turned out to be a really good thing for my productivity. I was getting heaps more done in the day. But the reason I did that is because, not to get into my battle on air, but we've got a lunch bar in this complex of units, and their grease trap has been overflowing for the last 2 months, and the place just stinks of sewage once the day starts warming up. And there's all these actions being taken. Like I'm still trying to get them either to fix it or get them evicted, because 2 months is beyond a joke. But it's just been a happy coincidence that me trying to avoid the pong has made my day more productive in that sense, which is great.
That's interesting.
And then I'll go home, be home by 5 at the latest, and I'll do either quotes, designs, emails, bookkeeping. But back a few months ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that because groggy and all that. But it's interesting to see how the productivity has changed.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear you say that, Joey, that you find that about the computer, because that is a trap that I fall into so often, is you just get stuck in, and as you say, it's 10 o'clock and now it's, half or a third of the day is gone, and you just start the day very demotivated. I'm a runner, but I'm struggling with a bit of a knee injury at the moment. But for the last couple of years, I've found that is one of the best ways to start the day. If I'm in the routine of getting up and going for a run, that's the best way to do it, is to get up and actually to get moving, because it's that transition from the bed to the office to the desk. It just kills you.
So something for me, I suppose, is I love what I do so much that I'll generally go to bed thinking about
the next day.
Exactly what's going to happen as soon as I walk in the door. I'll be thinking exactly. I'll walk in the door, I'll turn on the lights, and then I'll walk straight to this bench and pick up this bit of wood. I just need to double check that that's the right measurement, and then I can put that into this machine because I left it set up from yesterday, and that's going to get me going. And I know the first half an hour of what I'm going to do, and I'm laying in bed thinking about it. And so I just want to get up, eat breakfast, say
And go
bye,
back into
and
it.
let's get straight into it.
See,
And so there's no time for emails. Like,
yeah, I'm the exact same, and that's why quiet periods are like torture when you go home, because you're just walking around and you're just kicking stuff around. 'Cause it's like, what am I doing with my life?
I could be doing a whole lot of work right now.
Yeah, that's why. Like after I did my finger, I was just. It wasn't the finger injury that was making me so glum. It was the not having anything to do the following day. It was terrible.
I think it's so healthy to be like that, though, because that gives you something to do in the morning. Can you imagine being happy to just sit there? And I should probably be a little bit cautious because I don't want to rub anyone up the wrong way. If this is your jam, that's cool. But I can't imagine just being able to sit there and just be satisfied. There's so much more out there to do.
So do you guys have hobbies other than woodworking?
I pretend I do.
Yeah.
But in reality, I mean, I don't ever do it anymore. But I used to be an avid windsurfer and skate, and I used to do a whole heap of fun stuff. But I don't even know the last time I did it.
I'd say I have one, and that's the running.
Yeah.
But the woodworking, I don't believe you guys can just say that I'm a woodworker and that is my one hobby, because there's so much more that ties into that. For example, making the upholstery for your chairs, Joey. Jordan, I'm sure that there are other things that you do in this. Like, you guys aren't electricians, but I'm pretty sure if you'd be happy to learn a new skill. Like maybe the idea of a hobby and learning a new skill are very similar. And we're all just natural skill learners. We're basically, our lives are RPGs, and we're trying to level up as much as possible.
I guess my question was, have you got time to do things other than anything to do with making? Like, I am meant to be. Well, I do train in Taekwondo. I used to be training 3 times a week and teaching 1 class a week. And now I'm down to, if I'm lucky, I get to do a Saturday morning class. And, I haven't been to one for a couple of months, and it's killing me because I really like it. But I'm finding that it's not that I don't want to go. It's like I kind of enjoy being in the workshop more.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I've achieved some of my goals in that particular aspect. But it's really tough to find the energy to do these other things now, because I'm liking what I'm doing so much.
Yeah, it's the enjoyment out of the shop is greater than the enjoyment you're achieving, doing the other things. Yeah. I mean, my hope for this year is to get back into a few of my hobbies, because last year I was just so exhausted that I physically couldn't do them. But the more and more, like, the better I'm feeling and the more productive I'm getting in the shop and the more I'm achieving in the shop, the more I want to be here, which is counterproductive to that goal.
All right. So any really bad processes you guys have got that you think you do, but you just can't be bothered changing?
I've got one, and this was on my list that I wanted to find this out from you guys, because I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and that's with my finishing with polyurethane. What I've always done is, on my first coat, I've put on quite a heavy layer, but then I found all the subsequent coats take forever to dry. The first coat, it's like that. It's dried perfect to the touch, but I can't seem to. And I noticed when I put that second coat on, I'm getting streaks, but not streaks like brush streaks. Like it's drying in streaks. Like parts are drying at a different rate. So I don't know.
How do you apply your...
It's a big subject.
Yeah, this is a whole episode. But how is it you're applying poly? Is it with a brush or rag or
just with a cloth?
Yeah, so you rag it on. Do you thin it like 50%?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's
probably where you're going wrong. So especially when you're ragging it on, it has to be thinned to basically 50-50, if not more. And then subsequent coats, you thin even more sometimes. So often the last coat will be almost entirely thinner.
Yep.
But then aren't you you're not actually getting the polyurethane on there. Then you just...
No, but you got to do like 8 coats.
Yeah. It's all about thin layers to get unnoticeable film finish.
Yeah, it's really an awesome way to do it. So I will direct you to Andrew Pitt's Furniture Maker on YouTube.
Yeah.
He hasn't put a video up for ages, but I think he's moved across country. So
his shop was beautiful back in the day.
Yeah, he's setting up a new shop, I believe. He has put a video out fairly recently, so I think there's more videos coming. But anyway, he's got an old video. If you go search somewhere, search hand-rubbed finishing or hand-rubbed polyurethane. That's where I learned this trick from him. 50-50 at least, 60-40 maybe, thinners so terps to polyurethane. And he just uses his bare skin hands and just dips it in the pot and massages it into the top.
That would not do a dermatitis very well.
So I use gloves if I'm going to do this trick, but it works brilliantly. Actually, my wife, when she was working for me, was way better at this than me, and I just let her do the finishing because she had the magic touch. And I've been actually trying to get her to tell me what she did that made it so awesome. But we would do, the first coat, you just got to get it on. And then it does settle a bit like if you did a Danish oil finish. You get some pooling, then you wipe that off with a nice clean rag. But you just keep applying those coats one after the other. Maybe do 3-4 coats, rub down any high spots, then do another 3 or 4 coats. And then that last coat is just about, it's got to be down to 60-40 thinners. And because of the amount of thinners, it's drying off really quick. You don't have any time, very little time for dust to settle in it. And you get it's like a sprayed glassy finish. It really is beautiful. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah. Another video I'd refer you to is the Wood Whisperer has a hand applied polyurethane video. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but you'll find it because he did it. It's like a DVD that he did as well. But
that is rubbing out one.
Hey,
was that his rubbing out one?
No, I don't think so.
Cracking up about the fact that he was saying rubbing out.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, that's another good video which would give you the right direction anyway, especially if you're using a rag.
Now, this is the polyurethane that I've always used, and I will direct my eyes to the bit where it says thinning. This wipe-on poly does not require thinning. And interesting, in the comments, Cuffy has just mentioned that being a wipe-on poly, it's already thinned.
Is it polyurethane?
It's definitely polyurethane.
So first of all, I've got to say this because it annoys me. Don't buy wipe-on poly because it's just polyurethane with terps in it, and you're paying extra for it.
Which I didn't know up until about 10 minutes ago. Just really. So
you buy a can. You can get a really good finish from really cheap polyurethane. You can get a 4-liter can over here for about $45, and then you're going to quadruple the coverage by thinning it out. Well, maybe not because it evaporates, but you just mix it yourself in a can. You can buy empty paint cans, mix your own mix, write on the lid what the mix ratio is, and next thing you know, you've got your own can, and you can actually manage how much thinners are in it rather than just going off what the manufacturer has made for a general public who don't necessarily know what they're doing.
That is really cool. Stuff. I might see, because I've never really looked into buying finishes in bulk just because I don't use that much. I mean, this dining table that I'm doing, I'm burning through quite a bit, but I might look into that because I didn't know that it was thin. I just assumed it. And it's funny because I've always looked at that and thought, well, I've got my other tin of not wipe-on polyurethane, but if they're both polyurethane, what's the difference?
It's just and the only thing I'll say with that hand rubbing polyurethane on is that it's a bit of a nightmare on vertical surfaces. Like you get a lot of runs and you've got to be on top of wiping it off. But on the tabletop, it's genius.
I must just quickly mention, we talked about water-based polyurethane a while ago. And Joey, you were saying if you get that first coat on proper, you're off to the races. And with this bedside table, I was working with plywood. polyurethane, really concentrated on that, and it's amazing. You get that first coat on proper, and the rest is easy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Based. Yeah.
You go.
I had one. Is yours related to this topic or no? Because I was going to suggest a new topic.
Oh, you go for it.
Okay. I was interested because pricing is obviously going to be an entirely different episode. Yeah. But quoting is something which I've been putting a lot of time into this last few weeks with spreadsheets and everything lately. And I'm kind of proud of my process, but I'm not sure if it is going to be actually that practical in the long run. So the first thing I do for a quote is after I've talked to the client and we've made the design, my first step is I will mock something up as a model so I can calculate how much material I need.
In reality or 3D?
3D. Never on the computer, like quick SketchUp. I wouldn't spend more than an hour doing it.
Yeah.
And then from that, I can calculate what stock I can make it out of, how much of each width and length and all that I need, so I can get the materials costing down. Now, this is where my spreadsheet comes in. And this is because I felt I was failing in quoting, and as in really back and forth doing the same thing every single time. I came up with a solution where I've got a new spreadsheet. I've taken my price list from my main supplier and I've put the most common woods in there, dimensions, and then the price per linear meter. And then I've got a calculate form. So if it's 150 by 38, I say it's 16 meters of that, and then it will calculate it for each species of timber under that. And then I will add 20% onto that cost already. For me, I have an $80 delivery, so I'll add that onto it. And then this is where the art of the quote will come in, and that is trying to calculate the time it's going to take you to actually make the project. Because I'll look at a project and I'll think, oh, that's going to be 6 days. And in reality, it's 2 days. And I'll sometimes look at a project and say that will be a day and it takes 5 days. But, either way, I have another spreadsheet which has got my running list of costs and expenses for every month. And then I, divide that by however many days I'm working that month and give me a general baseline for what I have to make a day. Not ideally, but what I have to make, and then I calculate days off that. And then, I have cost of building, which is based on my time. I've got cost of materials plus 20% in multiple species. I add a day for finishing, all that sort of stuff in it. But I'm wondering, is this something along the lines of what you do, or am I setting myself up for disaster by actually trying to calculate it to science?
It seems complicated to me, but I don't do spreadsheets very well. I keep spreadsheets for actual costings of jobs. So as soon as I actually start buying materials for a job, everything I buy for that job goes into a spreadsheet. So I know actually what that job cost me, so I actually know how much money I made at the end of the job. I'm not just doing it on theory.
Is that something I don't do?
But that is that's such a big thing when you actually because this is actually something I picked up from the business coaching. That one of the first things they'll say to you is, how much money are you actually making on your jobs? Where's the spreadsheet? Show me how much it cost. And you're like, oh, well, here's some receipts. I think that was for this job. And they're like, no, that's not right. So you've got to make sure you know what the job costs you. And then you can actually work out, did you make money on that job or not for a start? Plus, how much money to take out of the bank to actually put into your pocket. So that's a really big thing for me. But as far as quoting, I do pretty much the same thing. I do it all by hand. I've got a book and I just write every quote out by hand. Yeah. Because there's so many variables, I find it's easier just for me to write stuff out. So I go materials and I work everything out by the cubic meter. So if it's a table, I just go length times width times thickness times the cost of the the timber for that cubic rate. And it's not till I get the job and then I'm at the timber yard, that's when I start working out what are the available size timbers I've got, and is that going to fit inside my quote budget? There's no way because all the timber I get's random width. There's no way I can guarantee I'm going to get the right size boards. It's never going to happen. So it's timber. I add a bit on. I don't know. It's a random amount depending on the job size.
Right.
Usually. And then I'll just go consumables. What am I going to need? Glue, screws, sandpaper, dominoes, whatever it might be. Finishing, polyurethane. I buy like 20-liter buckets of finish, so I just kind of add $10 a pop for a job.
Yep.
And then I just go through, and I have, for my time, it's going to take me an hour and a half, 2 hours to go pick up materials, and then I just go through. This is getting into the other episode, but I work out my time, add GST, work out how much time my worker is going to work on the job, how much it's going to cost for him, and try and put a number to it.
So you don't then quote as a per day sort of thing. You quote because you obviously work on several projects at a time as well, so it's impossible to do per day. But you are calculating an hourly rate generally.
Yes. I'll have to reread my article I wrote to give you a more succinct description.
What I might do is actually pop that into the description for this video, because a link to this article that Joey's mentioning. I got it before we were doing this podcast, and super interesting. Probably a little bit ahead of where I am, but I think it would anyone who's already in the throes, it would really help them out quite a bit.
Should we get on to questions? Or?
I was just about to say that exact thing, right? So we've got 2 questions so far. So I think that'll probably do us for time. So W4L has asked us, "Hi guys, I have a question for your next podcast. Why is it that benchtop planers or lunchbox planers tend to have infeed and outfeed tables, but floor standing models don't?" And then he's gone on to ask a follow-up.
Say that again.
So, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this. Why is it that benchtop planers, so your lunchbox planers, like the one behind me, have infeed and outfeed tables, but floor standing models don't? Now, I've always thought floor standing models do.
Yeah, I would maybe say that is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand. I kind of get what you're saying, because some floor standing ones don't come with it as standard. But I mean, my initial thought would be that a benchtop planer, like a lunchbox planer, that bed, if you didn't have the tables flipped down, that bed is only like not even 300 mil long. Yeah. So you need the extra tables just so your workpiece can get into the machine. Whereas on a floor standing unit, generally that table's at least 400 mil wide, because it's a lot bigger, a lot heavier. So you don't necessarily need as much.
So on a lunchbox planer, those bits that fold down are generally, well, the ones I've seen, they're kind of filled in. They're actually like a little table.
Yeah.
And you don't get that on the bigger machines. You just get like a roller.
A roller or a longer cast iron bolt-on or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe there's a difference between table and rollers. I'm not sure, but every floor standing model I've seen has got some version of a roller in-feed and out-feed.
On the lunchbox planers, you've actually got to adjust that to get that level with your bed, your table.
It's only pressed in, isn't it?
Yeah, which is stupid. Yeah. They flex like crazy. But now on your floor standing models, do you need to make that adjustment as well?
There is adjustment, but it's generally pretty bang on from the shop.
Yeah, you set it and leave. I mean, my current planer is like, it's a beast. It's a vintage 1940s 600 mil wide thing, and there's no bolt-on tables on it, but the table length is also almost 700 mil as it stands.
But that's what I'm sort of saying. Like with the lunchbox planers, those those beds, those in-feed, out-feed that you adjust become part of the bed.
Right.
Whereas on your floor standing models, is your bed already wide enough that you don't need those? So you're not really making adjustments on those. Those are just to support the material on the way in.
I mean, on my machine, it's a one-piece casting, so there is no adjustment other than the bed rollers. You can adjust them, obviously, but there's no adjustment for in and out feed side of it.
Okay. Well, the follow-on question was, do standing models tend to have less snipe?
Yes. So on a standing model, the snipe is delivered from your bed rollers not being set correctly or being set too high. Whereas on a lunchbox planer, it's actually the cutter head deflecting. So on my beast of a joint planer, I have these huge rollers. They're probably 100 mil diameter, solid steel, and I have them set to 0.2 millimeters higher than the actual table itself. So when the board feeds in, it will hit that roller, lift up, and I will get a tiny bit of snipe. But if I'm doing let's say a board which has no length left to it, I drop that roller down to be below the table, which is easy on mine. I just pull out a shim,
right,
and then I get no snipe at all. And that's because there's no deflection of the head, obviously. There's no deflection of the table, and it is what it is. The only way you'll get deflection is if you're lifting up the end of the board before it's grabbed, you know.
Interesting.
I will get snipe sometimes and sometimes not. And to be honest, I don't really care why. It's just sometimes I'm lucky and sometimes I'm not. I'm pretty much at that planing stage. And my snipe is 60 mil long. So I just add 120 mil onto everything I put through the planer. Generally, I can do that most of the time. And from there, then it goes to get cut to length anyway. So it's not very often that
I'm glad to hear you say that, because same thing. Sometimes not. Sometimes you get it. Sometimes you don't. And as you say, if you just build that in, then because it feels like it's this never-ending quest for us to remove snipe from existence. But does it have to be like that?
I mean,
well, even if I have a finished piece and it gets a bit of snipe on it, it's like less than half a mil, and I can just like hit it with a hand plane and it's gone. Like, okay, it's not completely gone if you really put a straight edge on it, but no one's doing that. It's timber's timber. So as long as you can't see the actual gouge
or feel it.
Yeah. And if snipe is that big of a problem for you, you have machines which are guaranteed for no snipe. Like it just costs a lot. It's like my old Minimax SM, whatever it was called. That was guaranteed for zero snipe, and that thing got zero snipe, but it also cost $7,000. Like, you're paying for that. So either you want to save 150 mil of timber on every length, or you want to spend the best part of $10,000 on a machine that won't do it.
Well, if you're using American white oak, it might be worth spending the money.
Well, for the American white oak, I'll put that through my sander, because that thing is dialed into 0.2 of a millimeter accuracy and thicknesses and has zero snipe. Because that's a $25,000 machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't pay that, obviously. But
Sorry, Joe, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say that it shouldn't matter. That snipe shouldn't really be a concern, in my opinion, because you're right at the very stage of dealing with that rough sawn timber.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to go through 100 processes after. You're just trying to get it to a point where you can get a flat square face off the other face. So you're really at a milling stage. And once it comes out of those machines, then it becomes like furniture making stage. Like I see it as a whole different process.
That's when you get snipe on a jointer that you should be concerned, because that's obviously machine set up way wrong, but also those are the faces you should be referencing off. If you're referencing from ends, it's that face.
You can get snipe on a jointer?
If you set the beds up.
Only if your bed is like, your outfeed bed is lower than infeed, lower than the cutter head. So you can, It's just,
wow.
It happens.
Okay.
all your
Sometimes-
tables drop a bit as well. You can get it.
My table dropped on my one, and I'm still struggling to get it back to where it was.
Oh, it takes forever. It's annoying.
The more you know.
My one, once again, big vintage thing. It was set up perfectly, and then I noticed it starting to drop more and more. So I've had the same battle of trying to parallel it all. But when I took out the existing shims, they were bloody like cardboard, not cereal box cardboard, but packing box corrugated cardboard. So it's just, I don't know why he used that, but he did.
It worked for a while.
It worked for a little while.
Right.
All right, next question and the last question. This is from Lee Vella. I'd love to hear your guys' views on fitting in personal projects between client jobs. Do you put aside time for it, or do you just do them after hours? Joey, I know you've got a lot of experience with this recently.
I try and just book them in as a job and say, but usually I give myself way less time than I should. But I'll just say, look, this week I'm going to make my dining table, and I've only got this week to do it, so I better get it done. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I mean, I don't book it in as a project, but I will generally, if I have a personal project, I'll come in on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'll do it then. Like, a personal project is something I'm going to be enjoying anyway, so I don't mind spending my weekend like that. But it is, I noticed it a lot last year that when you do that, you feel like you don't get a break from work. So this year I'm trying to be like mindful of that. So I'll do this weekend, but I'm definitely not doing next weekend. Even if I want to come in, I'm not coming in, sort of thing. But when I've got client builds on, I wait till the weekend.
And maybe a follow-on question for that, John, when are you working on multiple builds at the time so you can just fit your personal builds into that? Because I know, Joey, you often we've talked about having a lot of things on the go, but can you just fit the stuff in, or once you've got 2 projects on the go, like that's it, there's no space for anything else?
That's directed towards me, right? Yeah. So I'm hoping with the new amount of space I have, I can get an extra 2 benches in here, so it won't be an issue. But yeah, if I've got any more than 2 builds on at the go, there is no bench space anywhere for me to actually work on anything else. It's just
so it comes down to bench space, not necessarily time.
Yeah, it's bench space, not time for me. But yeah, like I said, with this new layout, is it a layout? Yeah. For some reason that sounds wrong. I've got heaps of room now between every single machine, so I'm hoping that I can get some more like 1x1 mobile workbenches built and just stack them high when they're not in use and drop them down when they're not.
Awesome to have. Yeah, I've got one and I use it. I didn't think I'd use it, but I use it all the time.
I've only got 1 bench on wheels, but it's like a 2x1. Well, it's actually bigger than that, and it's kind of too big. So I keep that in my finishing room because it's perfect to wheel an entire table in on and wheel it out. But yeah, I want to kind of make 2 more half that size.
Yep.
I've recently, just this week, pulled that big, I don't know what you'd call that table. I've pulled that out. I've pulled my old workbench out. I used to have 2 of my workbenches put together to make a big bench, but I've separated them this week, and it makes so much more sense. So now I basically have 3 banks of workbenches, and you've just added all these extra sides that you can use. It's the way to go. So same boat, I'm going to make myself a couple more of them on wheels. You can just move them around. Yeah, it's the way to go.
Yeah, I think wheels, as long as, and if you can do, I don't know if I'm ever actually going to do this, but I've thought about making like nesting benches. So it's a high bench and a slightly shorter bench, so you can wheel under the first bench. I've thought about doing that before. That was in my the last workshop, which is half the size of this one.
Right.
In this one, it's probably not really necessary anymore.
Yeah, you just get comments about people telling you to stop showing off. You've got enough space.
It's not that big. How big's your shop, Joe?
My shop is 200 squares.
How many?
200.
I missed it again, sorry.
200 square meters.
Sorry. Yeah, cool. So I'm like 250, but I've got mezzanine office. So yeah, we're about the same.
250 square meters.
Yeah, it's not big enough. I need 400.
Jeez, you know how many people I have saying to me my shop's too big, and I'm what, 6 by 9? I'm 54, and people are like, "Wow, that's amazing." 250
put a
square
panel
meters.
store in there. You don't have any space left.
Yeah, you couldn't like. I had this opportunity. This is going to get long, but I had an opportunity to get an even bigger panel store than I did, but it physically wouldn't fit in this workshop. It physically would not fit. I tried every measurement I could because it was beautiful. It was fully automated, but it wouldn't fit.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
I think we're done.
I think so.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks very much for all the questions, as always. It's been a pretty good episode. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear that all that stuff about the snipe. That was that's pretty much made my week. I'm gonna drop that concern and worry off my plate. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for listening. There will be links in this YouTube video description down below. This episode will be up on iTunes shortly, so if you want to listen to it there. Thanks again, everyone, for listening and watching, and we will see you again same time next week.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.